Hi, today I have a 2008 6.4. I'm going to be pulling the turbos off, and the way we like to do it here, that we found works best for us at least, is we raise the body a little bit. That way we have more clearance back here in the back to get the exhaust pipes off. There's other ways. You can leave the body alone and just find ways to get to the bolts. You can pull the trans and reach up and get them. Sometimes we'll do that too on ambulances or different ones. We might do it that way. But usually on the trucks, especially if they have ladder racks or anything else, we'll loosen the body, raise it up, and then pull the turbos off. I'll try to show the highlights as I go along. So first thing we're going to do is get the truck ready, drain the coolant, and pull the body bolts. To get the body bolts, you've got a couple of options. If you heat it up here with the MAP gas to loosen up the Loctite, then you can go and hit it with an impact and get them out here. That works, I mean, it's effective. But you will strip a few every now and then, just from the constant hammering of the impact. The way it hits it, just sits and does like this, it'll knock the carriage bolts loose inside the body. So sometimes that's a problem. Now another tech, not me, came up with this and posted on Ford's internal website. Because the way these pipe threaders are, they have constant tension on it. There's no rattling of the body bolt. It'll stay stuck inside the cage. It'll get cocked and just sit there and turn and get stuck like this, and then you can fight them off. You don't even have to heat them up or do anything. And what we did here, we just took one of the adapters, welded an extension to it, and got the socket. It'll fit on here. It's a little heavy and it's real slow, but it's effective. You just start on the body bolts, and it'll sit there and twist them until they're right out. Remove the shift cable. Remove the emergency brake cable. We need to get the tabs out of here and slide it back and undo it. When you let go of this, make sure you let go of it slow so it doesn't go back too fast and damage the inside. Squeeze the tabs in here, then slide the cable out. Okay, now a couple things I want to point out, because this could be really dangerous. One, this is a really slow this way, but it's very effective. And the other is it has a lot of torque. I'm going to demonstrate it right here, but just you got to remember not to have your hands anywhere you can get caught, because it could be dangerous. So hold on to it, expect it to twist you. As you see, it's slow and effective. I'll show you back here on this one. Disconnect both batteries. We're going to remove the battery on the driver's side and the coolant bottle, which is along with the battery tray. Remove the lock rings off the upper hose here, and also off the hose down here on the degas bottle. The vent hose up here, because we're going to take the hose off here and also take the coolant bottle out. Also make sure that whenever you do this, you want to inspect, but you should really replace the O-rings inside. Because it's when these cooling systems leak a little bit, that's what causes the front cover cavitation. So let's go ahead and take these hoses off and lift the bottle out. With the hose off, lift the bottle out. Spray and remove 4 ends of the charge air cooler hoses. Spray the clamps on all the ends. Remove the fuel cooler and the crossover tube as an assembly. So I'm going to disconnect the hoses here. They usually don't leak much, so it's not an issue. Take the fuel lines off, and then just take off the heater hose here because we're raising the body, and there's 3 bolts that's on that holds the whole bracket. And we'll lift this off as assembly. Disconnect the wire for the actuator, pull the red safety back over here, and squeeze it, pull it out, take it out, disconnect the EBP sensor, and then you can move your wires out of the way. Take the hose off here to the turbo. I just set it up here just to keep it from leaking. Now with all the bolts off, I've got the bolts off down here on the bottom of the bracket, the 2 at each valve cover, and you're able to pull the whole thing out as an assembly. Go ahead and lift this out. You can see the bolts, the 3 down here, plus the dipstick, and then the 2 off here at the valve cover bolts. Just move the EBP back out of the way. Now this is pretty straightforward. We're just going to get the air cleaner assembly out of the way, take the complete air cleaner out, and also off of the turbo. We're going to remove the turbo, so let's get this out of the way. Remove the crankcase breather and the air filter hose as an assembly. Be careful when you disconnect the one down here that goes to the crankcase, because if you end up breaking this, well, the plastic tube's pretty brittle and they break. You can also splice it or patch it with just some the proper hose to fix it for that's resistance to oil. So if you crack it, make sure you fix it, but just pay attention to it, and be careful with it. It doesn't break when you pull it off. And just pull this whole assembly out. Now with raising the body 3 or 4 inches here, anything that won't stretch or come up that's separate from that stays down with the motor and the body goes up, we want to get loosen up here. So we're going to disconnect the PCM here, the battery cables. We're going to take them off here, just undo them so they can come down or go up, whatever you want to say. Trans lines down here on the frame. We're going to take the clip out of here. We're going to disconnect the steering. This right here, we just want to unplug this off the body, just so when it raises the 3-4 inches, it won't, because we're going to raise the front end up. And like I said, the steering shaft we're going to undo down here. So I'm going to go ahead and start focusing on those and get ready to raise the body up a little bit. That's good, right? Yep. This is the passenger side frame rail. The lines right here, just when the body comes up off the frame, we don't want to stretch these. So we just take it and loosen it up. That way they can go up with the body here. So now with the blocks in there, we have all types of clearance in here to get to it. Let's go ahead and start getting the turbo off. Makes it a lot easier to get to the back of the turbo. This is the driver's side exhaust manifold. We loosen the two back here, and then I'll loosen the bracket up here that holds it against the block, against the cylinder head. Once you remove the bolts on the driver's side exhaust manifold, and the two up here, the two on the bracket, then you can just move it out of the way. I know some guys that try to leave that in there. This joint here, it's not made to flex and bend, and if you do, you're going to end up breaking this pipe. It's just going to come back, and you're looking at a pipe that costs well over $300, and it's not easy to do. If you just loosen it up, take a few extra minutes, then now getting to all the rest of these bolts are a whole lot easier. So now we're going to remove these 6 bolts back here that hold the up pipe to the turbo. Also, I'll point out here, with the body raised this much, you can take this pipe all the way out. Otherwise, normally you'd pull the trans or do something else to get this pipe out. On these back here, I strongly advise getting a new name brand 6-point 10mm socket, just because it's a whole lot better to make sure that you get it right the first time. Pretty much all the sockets now have the flank drive with snap-on start it and grip, but if you get them all, as you can see here, I have a deep socket with a 1-inch extension. And this is about one of the hardest ones, so you can see it gets to all these. In these bottom two, both sides, I'm just using a 3-inch extension on top of a 1-inch extension, and the same thing with the deep. And then the flex ratchet. And it's even a cheap Harbor Freight flex ratchet on top of that. Bolts are off in the back now, all 6 of them on the up pipes. Now to prevent damage, I do advise taking off your fuel line here, and also taking the oil supply tube out. I mean, you have to unbolt it from the turbo. It's not that big of a deal. Just undo the one 6mm head or 8mm head bolt down here, and then take it off. So we're going to take the oil supply lines off and the fuel line, and then we'll go out this heat shield here. Remove the heat shield. Whenever bolts start binding on you, stop instantly, put some more penetrant on it, and instead of trying to force it out because that thread is gummed up, it has an issue, throw some penetrant on it, actually tighten it back up, bring it down, and then keep either reversing it back and forth. Try it lightly, because it's a whole lot easier to work with it a little bit than to break it, and then try again once you work the penetrant in and get it off. So a lot of times that'll help, but just trying to continue to force it out is not an answer. Well, it's not a good answer. Now with the shield off, we have a straight shot down on both of the hold down the anchor bolts here. So now with that off, I'm going to go ahead and get a 15 in long extension, break these loose. You have 2 of them here, one in the front, one in the back. This is about what it takes to get these bolts loose. So I wouldn't plan on going in there with a 3/8 ratchet and try to get this out here. They're pretty tight. They're going to fight you here. This is what you're getting out times 2, the front and the back here, getting them out of there. I use the magnet to pull them out. I'll take it here. Get them out. Okay, now here, I'm not going to use a whole lot of force because I don't want to crack anything. Never had an issue cracking a head or a valve cover yet. We're going to get down inside here with 1 pry bar. And I need the turbo over here on this side. Maybe just rock it for a few. So it comes up. Up, and this is a 2-person job to lift this out. It's pretty heavy here. I guess depending on how strong you are, what you want to try to pull out. Okay, I had to get some help and got it out of the vehicle. Just a couple things I'll go over real quick. They normally don't have bolts inside of here, and this one's all loose. They will be loose, some of them, just from wear. Normally with the bushings and everything else and you don't have an exhaust leak, it's a lot tighter than that. But as far as having bolts inside of here, they're not there. That's only used for assembly of them. So it's expect not to see them. If you don't want them to come apart when you pull it out, feel free to get a couple bolts started in there. Then also what you want to check, make sure you check both sides of your turbo for end play, for any issues with them, for up and down movement. Mostly up and down movement. You expect a little bit of end play. But what I have here on this turbo, this is actually my problem. This one's seized. So that's the issue here with this turbo. You can tell it's been going on for a while here. Look at all the burnt oil that's stuck inside of here. So this one has the issues. Also, Snap-on makes a tool, which I'll show here in a second, to get these out. Because if we're going to service this turbo, on some of these we have to take these off. Some of them are press in and some of them are bolt in. Okay, when you get the turbo, it's going to become separate here from versus the actuator here, the part that moves the variable vanes inside. So what you need to do now is loosen the nut on here, and instead of sitting here tearing this all up, Snap-on makes a tool. There's the part number, TAP 1225, Tom Apple Paul 1225. You take the nut off here of it, and then you can take it and you can slide the tool over it, and you can see here how it does it and tightens against it, same way like a pitman arm remover works, and takes it off and pushes it off. So this tool comes in handy here when doing them. Now the only other couple pointers I'll give out here as far as assembly is pretty much I usually don't show reassemble videos. It's kind of just a reverse of what you've done, not anything really extra technical or hard about it. Let me just show a few pointers on it. One thing I show here about as far as going back together, normally I'll always replace these. If you're in a bind or you want to chance it and do it twice, it's up to you. And normally I just like to go the little bit extra expense and put them in. But you want to do it, you can see here the tapered side, that goes down. And also during assembly, we always stick them in the turbo first. So we'll have the turbos together. We'll stick this one inside the turbo, assemble it, and make sure it goes all the way in until it's flush right there, like that is. And then of course the turbos are together when we're going back together with them. So seal first in there, that's our preference with them. And we lube the crap out of this. We just put a bunch of assembly lube all around here to make sure that we don't have any issues. Okay, and then up here, what we'll do is make sure that the oil drain back tube is not bent. Put a new seal on here. We'll put a bunch of anti-seize around here. This is what we were rocking to get it off of these dowel pins right here. It also would help if spraying these before you remove it. I should have shown that and did that first. As you can see, these here are pretty dry. That was partially what's giving me a problem. But we'll put a bunch of anti-seize on here. We'll even do a little extra lubrication right there. New seal here. Then we'll lift the turbo down. We'll just bring it down and set it down. And once we set it down and we push on it and we've got it seated, we'll use a mirror and make sure. It only takes a couple extra seconds just to make sure this is all down and seated. So that's pretty much it. But one thing I think I'd like to bring up, just because I kind of owe a guy here that helped me out. I had a guy here that wrote to me and said that he really appreciates the videos that I do, and he wanted to make sure I had one of these topside creepers. And I told him I did have one. His name was Tim Elias, but he said that it sounds like I'm always stressed when I'm leaning over these motors, mostly because I don't use this as much as I should. So Tim Elias gave me a pretty good sizable donation to make sure I can buy one of these if I ever need another one. So let me give a shout out to Tim and say thank you, Mr. Elias, for what you did for me. That really helps out, especially with my kids and my boys in college. All this stuff helps. So pretty much that's it. Hopefully that helps you out with the 6.4 turbos on removal and inspection. And if any of this does help you, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much.